All right, good day. Andrew Dockery here.
Jamie, trying to wake up.
I said good day because our guest, that is his favorite saying.
Yeah. And also, we're not ready for you yet, so just stop talking. We're going to get to you in a minute.
We told you this episode will go off the rails, and that's just a preview of what's to come.
Yeah, there he is.
There he is.
Little sneak preview for you.
Before we introduce George, which we already did last episode because we know how he is, I did want to say episode 40.
Episode 40? Man, chugging along. I see what you have printed out there.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see it very well. There it is. Keith, we got to give a shout out to Keith.
I did not write the entire message because it was a long message.
Yeah, he sent us a great email. Keith from Minnesota, a loyal viewer in Minnesota.
Bemidji, Minnesota.
Yeah.
Had to look up how to pronounce
Bemidji.
that. But he said that he asked where to watch Are You Serious? He uses our website. He's watched all 39 podcasts. Keith, thank you. He said both myself and my wife enjoy it weekly since, like I said, before our daughter moved to Myrtle Beach about 2 years ago. So I'm always watching the weather out there and learning the patterns. That's the Cliff Notes version.
Yeah. And
That's
he's
awesome.
a snow measurer.
Yeah.
Weather watcher, reporter up there in Bemidji.
Don't need that for us here.
We don't.
Yeah.
And speaking of,
Can we just declare it?
I think we need to
over.
declare it.
Breaking news.
It's not going to happen.
Yeah, winter's over.
It's not going to happen.
It's over.
It's a little sad. It's a little disappointing.
Yeah.
For us. Didn't quite work out like it
Normally would.
normally should.
That's a better term.
It just things just didn't line up right.
Yeah. The weather humbles you.
It does.
What's crazy is the graphic you posted earlier that everyone picked up snow.
Every state in the lower 48
Except
has had snow, except for one, South Carolina. There were even snow flurries in the Florida Panhandle back on January 16th, and we can't get anything. Is it ever going to snow in South Carolina again?
I don't know. Well, we've had enough cold air to where there was chances. It just never lined up.
Yeah.
So,
What was really disheartening was last weekend.
Oh.
It was cloudy and cold, and it was, how many times have we talked about the perfect setup for snow?
Low pressure.
That was pretty much the perfect setup. Low pressure crossing Florida. We had some cool, dry air coming in. Wasn't quite cold enough. Didn't quite line up just right.
Yeah.
But it was close.
I did like the bold predictions, though, so congrats to you for hitting yours.
And congrats to you for not hitting yours.
For busting mine.
Yeah,
Weather
busting
will humble
hard.
you. Very
Busted
hard. Very hard.
Yeah.
And we both busted on our Charlotte forecast, so that did not work.
Potentially Charlotte going for its second snowless winter on record.
That's crazy.
They had their first ever snowless winter last year, and now they're going to do it again.
Yeah.
Unless something dramatic happens in March. It certainly ain't happening in the next 2 weeks.
And it's not happening for us. It could still happen for Charlotte, but for us, it's done.
Yeah, stick a nail in it. So, snow lovers, on to winter 24-25.
Yeah. Also wanted to read one more positive comment from Sophie. I look forward to Thursday evenings to watch this podcast. I prefer viewing rather than listening.
Oh,
Speaking of listening and viewing, I finally crunched the numbers. It's hard to do so when you have 40 episodes.
Yep.
15,100 views.
Whoa, wow.
Right?
We're still not ready.
Somebody needs to celebrate that.
Not yet, George.
And 3,600 downloads for our listeners only.
Man.
So there you go. And after that, there's the episode.
So thank you to all of you.
Yeah, I mean, that's amazing. It's amazing if you could like, share, rate on
Rate
Spotify
is the big one. That's what you told me.
According to our research.
You got to rate.
Which I was trying to see how much money we've made, but we'll figure that out.
Yeah, we
for
need to get an
episode
update,
41.
see if we've gotten over a couple bucks.
Well,
Get some more mugs.
Yeah, yes, we're working on the mugs.
speaking of
Speaking of
the arm whisperer,
a need of mugs.
let's introduce him, shall we? Good day. Our chief photographer, George Hansen, is here.
George Hansen.
Hello.
There he is, working on
was
his customized mug.
There we go. Probably can't see
No one
that
can-
at home, but
Yeah,
I
we
wanted
don't,
to
You know, we don't have the capability to zoom on this podcast just
have
yet.
it branded.
We're still pretty basic.
I wanted to.
But But yeah, it looks.
You
yeah,
spelled
looks
it
pretty
right.
good.
Unified.
And you spelled it right. Yeah,
Thank
so
you.
that's a
Well,
start.
I've learned a thing or two from you over
Yeah.
the past, going on 16 years now.
16.
16 years
Isn't
of
that
music
something?
working together. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Marvelous.
Yeah.
Let me
16
ask you,
years.
do you remember meeting each other and what was that like?
I remember meeting George and thinking, what in the world is this?
Hello.
That was pretty much how it was. The early days of WMBF were interesting and busy.
They
And,
were very
and
busy.
You came on as chief photographer.
I did.
I
Yeah.
didn't come on as chief meteorologist. I was just kind of a lowly little guy. I remember meeting you, I think day 2, day 3. You were assigning people to go out, and we had to go and shoot video biographies of ourselves.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I still have. I think I still have all of them.
Yeah, you didn't shoot mine, but I remember you
most-
kind of going through how it was going to work, and
I should dig that up.
You should.
I think I sent it to you a
let's
while
not.
back. I think I sent it to you.
Let's not. Let's
Yeah.
not.
This would be where we would insert it in if you do find it.
Yeah,
So let
yeah. I
us
think
know.
I did send it to you a while back.
I'll
as
have
I
to
was
dig
going
through that.
The, and also, I found the. It was one of the Memorial Day parades when we covered it live. I think it was 2011. Mm-hmm. And we had that Zion storm chaser.
Oh yeah,
car.
yeah, the little Toyota Scion was our storm
There
chaser.
it is, a good
Yep.
shot of you driving down Ocean Boulevard. In
My
that.
first big memory of George is when you and I went to cover I guess it was the 2009 Inauguration Day snowstorm. It was the day Barack Obama was inaugurated. And you and I spent a
yes,
good
yes.
18, 20
Yes.
hours in Lumberton.
That's right.
In Lumberton.
That's right. We were there at the. It was the steakhouse.
Yeah.
The Texas Steakhouse
Yep.
there on.
On the
I think it's
side.
on 301.
Yeah.
Because I just passed it on Saturday because I was going up to Raleigh.
Yeah.
And a lot of memories there in
Lot of-
Lumberton.
yeah.
A lot of memories
Yeah.
there with the snow. And we haven't done that in years.
I know.
That has been a long time since
I know.
we did that. And gosh, I think that was the last time, probably.
No,
wasn't
that was
it?
2009. I
Yeah,
mean,
that would, to
since-
be up there
for
in
me and
Lumberton
you,
like
no,
that.
we've been up
I mean,
there
I
since
know
then.
I was there with Marla
You're getting older.
another time. And but
You're
it
getting
was,
old and forgetting. We've covered snow since 2009. 16
but
years.
I don't know
here
if it's
will do.
anything like that though, because we had that snow, and then we had those ice storms.
And that was 2014.
That's one of my significant memory with working with you was at that church in Florence.
Yep. We
And
did a
that-
whole broadcast.
Yeah,
a whole
we did the
newscast
whole-
from the Florence,
yeah.
from
And-
a church.
and
yeah.
that was over satellite. That was before live view technology and everything. So it was Michael Walter
Yeah.
and myself, and you were there.
Yeah.
And it must have been Michael Maley.
Michael Maley, and yeah, that's when you had to take the big SAT trucks out and
Yeah.
maneuver those big
I'm
things.
still driving
around.
that one
Well,
around.
you still drive.
I can see George
the old
rolling down the
driving.
street. There he is.
Yeah.
Somebody has to keep it going. You
So-
you got to keep the fire burning.
Yeah,
Because if
I
we
know.
don't, then
Yeah.
it's just going to sit there and rot, and we can't have that.
So of everybody who started here, it was what, 88, 89 people in
Oh
2008?
yeah, initially, yeah.
There were 89 roughly people here that started on day one. George, myself, and one other person, Katrina, are the only ones left of the original
we have
crew.
persevered.
Yeah.
We're not giving up the ship.
What's the reason for that? What do you attribute that
I mean,
to?
it really is a nice. I mean, this is a special place.
It is.
The TV station in itself is a special place.
Mm-hmm.
There has always been a consistency here through everyone who has come and gone, that there is wanting to be this consistency of moving the ball forward, so to speak.
Yeah.
That we want to keep the quality and keep growing. And I think that just speaks to because we're now going on our 16th year, that we're still a young station.
Yeah.
And we have that vitality. And we're hungry, and we want to continue to just show people that we're here for them, and that not only are we here for them, but we care about. And not to say that the others don't, but that we just really want to put in that extra effort and that passion. I think that we're not just here because we've been here. We're here because we truly want to be engaged with the community and make a difference and be out there.
And that is one of the great things that I love about WMBF is we're going to be different. We're going to push the envelope.
Yes.
We're going to do things that other TV stations, I
Look
think,
at
would
this.
say, there's no way we're going to do that. And then here we
Yeah.
are just kind of chugging along
Yeah.
and doing it. And I don't think the three of us left, I don't think we're ever leaving, at least on our own decision. We might get forced out, but not.
Well,
and
'cause
it's because of that, because like people have always asked me, why don't you go somewhere else? I don't want to. I couldn't dream of
Yeah, I mean,
leaving
it's-
here.
yeah.
after pouring in 16 years, because a lot of people, especially the new people in town, don't realize just how young 16 years is in terms of a TV station. Most TV stations are from the 50s and 60s, and here we are
70,
from 2008. We remember the days where, what station are you with?
Oh yeah.
Nobody knew who we
the
were.
quest continues on that front.
No one knew who we were. We would. It was so bad.
Yeah.
And our viewership was so little. We would have severe weather, or we would have winter storms. We would ask for viewer pictures.
I was just going to say
Crickets.
that.
I would go out and take them myself and submit them as different names, just to see.
And now you got more than you can handle.
And now now you get a storm, and it's like, oh God, there's 9,000 pictures, which is a wonderful thing.
Absolutely, it is.
It's a wonderful
it's
thing,
awesome.
but just the struggle from the beginning,
And that was one of our first. When did we go through that tropical? I don't even know if it was a storm.
We launched on August 8th, and it was literally a month in that we had our first tropical storm. That was Tropical Storm Hannah.
Yeah.
That was
I remember
Tropical
being
Storm
out there
Hannah.
with Laura Thomas at the Spanish Galleon in North Myrtle Beach. Out there, conquered down in the tiki hut. Taking covers.
In the grand scheme of things, Hannah was nothing.
Yeah.
It was nothing, but one of my favorite stories about Hannah, it's like Andrew's not even here.
I love this.
One of my favorite stories about Hannah is we were a young station, and we had a lot of young people who were just out of college and had never covered a tropical system. We had a boss who was interesting and who maybe tended to push things a little harder. This place was locked down and boarded up.
That's right, it was. I remember.
And full of mattresses. Everybody was forced to spend the night. There were air mattresses everywhere.
They put the shutters
The
on the
sheet
windows.
metal was on the windows.
That's right.
It was a 70-mile-per-hour
remember that.
tropical storm.
Yes, it was.
And then because we were the new kids in
I remember
town,
that.
the competition, the other two stations in town, I think it honestly became, excuse my language, it became a peeing match, so to speak. Who's going to stay on the longest for a 70-mile-per-hour tropical storm? Who is going to do the most for a tropical storm? I think they were trying to see how good we were going to do, how hard we were going to work. And, man, we rode that thing till the very last raindrop fell.
Could you imagine being a viewer two driving by and seeing this place?
We're hunkered down.
hunkered down.
We're not going anywhere.
Yeah.
Oh,
Gosh, that was crazy.
And we did that with 2 live trucks
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
And so I don't even remember where the other crew was. I just
Yeah.
remember being up there in North Myrtle Beach
Yeah.
and keeping my truck going. Mm-hmm. And
That was August of 2008. I think our first real big test was the Wildfire,
yes.
April
Yeah, that's what I was-
2009.
Yeah, that was really a moment when it was like, I even remember talking about our first news director. I think he was the one that was saying, like, we're just going to keep the pedal down on the gas. Like,
Yeah.
Like, because we could. We had
Yeah.
the staff.
Yeah.
We had people in place to do it, and that's what we did. And it just remained out. I remember driving over. Somehow I got a few hours to go home. Like I had some downtime between one day into the next, and I remember driving home and just seeing that sky
Incredible.
just lit up. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
it is incredible when you see
Yeah.
something like the wildfire that's taking place of that magnitude, and you just look out over the horizon, and it's like the sun is rising.
If people are unfamiliar, 2009, April of 2009, we had South Carolina's second largest wildfire in history, and it basically Lewis Bay Heritage Preserve, Barefoot Resort, basically west of 31, that whole area, 30,000 acres burned. And when I say it burned fast.
It did.
And yes, the entire sky was black. I was doing live shots from outside of the
I
station
remember
here,
seeing some of those photos. And videos.
on the front of Highway 17. We were just kind of focusing on the weather conditions. It was crazy windy that day, crazy windy. And just unreal sunshine here, but you look north and the sky was just black. And there was a fear there for a little while that it was going to jump the waterway and maybe run all the way to the beach.
Yeah.
I mean, they were evacuating barefoot and that whole
In
area.
the middle of the night, too.
Yeah,
I
middle of the
think they
night.
were
The fire
doing that.
kind of settled down, and then overnight it just ramped up again and just went crazy. And I think that was a defining moment, I think, for WMBF. That was when we were like, okay, we can do this.
Yeah.
And I think that's when the other kids in town were like, They're here to play. They're not
And
joking
I remember
around.
that was even. I think that was the one time. It was in the morning, and we did a live shot for the Today Show, and they had I think it was Jennifer Grove. Mm-hmm. She was the reporter, and we did a live shot for the Today Show. I think in like the 8 o'clock hour.
Yeah.
Or something like that, from up off of, there's a fire station off Highway 90 where we were. And so that was really exciting for me to experience that. But the funny thing is that I remember talking with the producer or whoever it was that was organizing it. She gave me 3 phone numbers to call. One was for the reporter, and then the other 2 was like for a producer, and then for like the camera person or whatever. And I was like, it's just me. Like, I don't know who you think is out here. But
It's me and the truck.
It's just me, the truck, and the reporter. Like
Yep.
as long as I can hear you, we'll be all right.
And that was back in the day where our station phone was a Razor flip phone.
Yeah, I remember the day we got them, and we were all celebrating
We were like,
because we were all using. That whole experience.
You say that, and I know the year already.
Yeah.
I mean, extremely. I mean, even at that time, 2008. I mean, we were the only station that was built from the ground up, right? In high definition.
High definition
From the
from-
ground up. This wasn't a retrofit. This was basically this building that was already here was. Everything inside was removed, and the only thing that remained were the exterior walls and the roof, and everything else was brought in and built up. And I remember even my first day coming here, showing up, and our boss wasn't there. The only people who were there were 2 salespeople.
Yep.
And they said, well, come on in, and you could sit here. And
You're here for opening day?
Look at this computer, and have fun.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, like, here I am.
Yep.
And we didn't even have cameras.
No cameras?
We didn't have. I mean, we had a few computers, but those were added on to eventually. The cameras showed up. I remember sitting in a warehouse with Mark Blazer, just down the road from here, unpacking all the cameras and all the gear and everything. And it was really an exciting time. To experience, and something that is extremely unique.
Yeah.
And that I'll always just remember fondly, just getting to see all that gear and unpack it, and then see everyone slowly come in, where at first it seemed like, well, we got enough space for, we're not going to run out of space.
Yeah.
And then by the end of it, before we moved in here, the place was
Full.
busting at the seams.
Yeah.
I mean, we were sending reporters out to do stories.
Before we ever launched.
Yeah.
Before we ever went on the
We were
air.
putting them online. We did have the website going.
Right.
We launched the website, I think, pretty well in advance
Yeah.
of the actual on-air broadcast. But yes, we would send the reporters out, and we would try. We would even set up the live truck.
Yep.
To do live shots, trying to get people familiar with the deadlines and everything,
Yeah.
so that
And
when we actually
rehearsals
transition,
What was the month gap in between starting and then actually going on air? Do you remember how many months that was?
I showed up. I was here in May. I remember driving down because it was the Kentucky Derby weekend.
Okay.
And so when I
First
was
weekend of
driving
May.
down, because at that time I lived in southern Illinois, and so I was driving down from there to here, and I had satellite radio. So I could listen to the,
Big time.
big time.
With this cup.
Yeah, rolling down to Myrtle Beach to change the news photography business forever. Yeah, and listening to satellite radio. So I remember that because the race was happening, and so.
My first day was June 30th.
Okay.
I arrived and I started at WMBF June 30th, and then, like I said, we launched on August 8th, 8/8/08.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah,
Paula
and we weren't even
Caruso
in this.
did
We weren't
the,
even in this building. We had a temporary office.
Yeah, initially,
Yeah.
we
I
were
remember
over
you
at that
saying that.
castle-looking
Yeah.
place off of Grissom Parkway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll never forget walking in here for the first time.
Yeah.
And there were the set was under construction. I was like, whoa.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, this is real.
Yeah,
They
we're
brought
really
it in
doing
on a
this.
semi-truck and
Yeah.
piece by piece loaded it in here. And,
George, what would you say, because we just jumped straight into stories, what would you say that you do? If,
that I
for the
do?
people don't know.
Oh, so you're asking,
Because it's kind of
what
like,
is it you do here?
Yeah.
What is
literally,
it
you do
here?
so much, I have no idea.
Yeah.
I show up,
For the people at home.
Yeah.
put in a hard 8 hours of work. I
Meh.
drink some coffee, and say hi to a few people. Generally, I like to make appearances and just let them know that I was here. And then I go home.
This is how he is.
Yeah.
And then I come back.
The next day and do it all over again.
But if you, seriously, I would say the oil in the engine from a field standpoint. Everything that happens in the field, I'm very much have my hand in. in terms of how we're going to do remote productions, how we're going to do live shots, how we're going to show people how to do live shots. Anything and everything related to field production, whether it be with a reporter or with live shots, the remote stuff, kind of a little bit of engineering, but not heavy duty. But I can make things work. I can get myself into danger
I've been in danger with George.
with tinkering on stuff and what have you. But I know enough that for the most part I can get myself out of it. And then if I can't, then I call one of the actual engineers and I say, help, what did I do? But so that's basically what I do. I mean, it's the oil in the engine, keep things moving, keep maintaining. And that's how I describe it.
We talk on this podcast a lot, Jamie and I, about how we're just so passionate for weather. There's no one more passionate for news.
Yeah, and I wouldn't even
this guy.
Not news or the
Technology,
photography.
live.
I would say the production aspect of it is
What
really
got you
that's
into
always
that?
been. It just kind of it happened. It really And I will tell you, when I was in college, I went to Southern Illinois University, the Salukis, which in my opinion is the finest broadcasting school in all of the nation, perhaps the world.
Make
Never
sure
heard
you
of
clip
it.
that and send it to him.
Yeah, never heard of it. But let me tell you, now you have.
All right.
Your eyes have been opened, my
Yes.
friend. And so through that, I don't even remember how. Initially, I wanted to be a veterinarian way back in the day.
Okay.
I'm talking about like maybe freshman year of high school, and I got into a work program. I think it was called DECA. They had it in my high school, and what really drew me to it, though, is that I got to leave an hour early.
Yeah, that'll do it.
And they would help you get a job, and so I expressed an interest in veterinarian, and so they got me a job at a local animal hospital where I worked for a consistent 3.5 years or so. Through working there, I discovered that I don't know if I really want to be a veterinarian. Plus, I didn't have the grades, so it would have been something that I really would have had to want in order to make happen. And I just felt I didn't want to, and I was drawn to TV. I was always running around as a kid with my stepfather's video camera, like a high 8 camera. And I don't even know if it was high. It might have been some other tape before high 8, but I would run
VHS.
around. It might have been VHS, but I would run around with that, and I would make movies. I made two of them actually. I have a series of franchises.
Oh, boy.
That maybe one day will be brought back to.
Okay.
but
Watch
it's
out,
called-
Christopher Nolan.
Called Death by Bear. And it was,
Sounds gory.
well, but
Yeah, it happens,
it was
yeah.
a low budget film,
Right,
you know,
yeah.
so we did. But basically, there was no editing because I didn't have editing capability.
It was one of those continuous
Exactly. So I would just basically choreograph it. And it'd only be like, I think it was like 3 minutes long. And I had this stuffed animal, and I involved my poor sister involved in it. And so the bear would attack her, and the bear would run away.
I love
But
this
there was
so
a sequel.
much.
And I did have graphics, though, because I created graphics on the computer screen. And so I would shoot the computer screen, and then I think I would leave the computer screen and then go off, and continue a shot. So I had this interest just intuitively, and plus my stepfather, he was always involved. He always had like the hi-fi stereo equipment, and I mean he still is involved in all of that. You go and he has a whole room that has reel-to-reel players. I mean, he's listening to reel-to-reel. He had all this stuff in the basement that I would tinker with and whatever, and so I don't know, that just it got planted in me. And then when it was coming time to think about, okay, what are you going to do after high school? I was like, well, I don't think I really want to be a veterinarian. I'm drawn to this video. Maybe I'll go work in TV in Los Angeles or film. I don't know what it is. And Southern Illinois was there. I grew up outside Chicago, so it was very easy to, navigate and go to school there. And so that's what I did. Went to broadcasting, and I studied I did behind the scenes. And I worked in the studio there, and they had a daily newscast.
Okay.
Now, I never thought about, like, news photography. I always kind of poo-pooed it. I was like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to run out and go talk to whoever. I wasn't interested in it. I was like, I did do it, though, a few times, just kind of to do it, to go out. But I never really thought of pursuing it as a career. I was like, I'm going to be a director or, like, a lighting director or do something with audio. I don't know what it is. But it just so happened that upon graduation, obviously you're like, okay, what do I do now? And so the options that basically it boiled down to, and I actually sent tapes to the stations here at that time, which this would have been 2002. So I sent tapes
To Myrtle Beach?
to Myrtle Beach, Florence, and I don't know, so I sent BTW probably and WPDE way back in the day, and This was VHS tapes too.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
so you're sending. I must have sent like 40 some VHS tapes and resumes out after coming up on graduation. Nobody got back to me except for one, which was WTOC in Savannah, Georgia, and it was for a production position. And they called me up and they invited me down for an interview. Craig Harney, he's passed away now, but he was really the one that gave me the foot in the door. And we know that that's how a lot of careers in TV start, is that they start, everything starts small, but it starts by getting your foot in the door. I got my foot in the door. I was working the morning show running studio camera. And within 2 months, they had an opening. At that time, at that station, they had a shift that was just Saturday, Sunday, and it was 2 15-hour days. So you'd work like 7 a.m. till 11 p.m. And they said, "Are you interested?" And I said, "Yeah." They used the same cameras that I used in school, and so I kind of took the camera out and messed around with it a little bit, and I was like, "Yeah." It paid twice as much, which at that time I was making $5.25 an hour. $5.25 an hour out of college, graduating college, make $5.20. God bless my parents; they helped support. I was also married at that time too, so I got married, and so it all just kind of happened. It was like, okay, I'm going to take this because, well, I want to try it. It pays twice as much. I need the money. And kind of one thing just led to another. It was just like, and I'll say it to anyone who wants to learn anything, is just be a sponge and soak it up. Yeah. And I had people there that would speak into my life and encourage me. I remember working with one reporter, Ryan Young, and he's one that I would say who really influenced me to kind of push myself and really investigate, like, what is this news photography really all about? What is it supposed to be? How does it look? You know, and because I went out and shot with him one weekend, and this was early on in my shooting experience, and he was like, "Why'd you shoot this? Why didn't you shoot that?" And he just like tore it apart. I mean, not in a bad way though, but it was like, "You should have got this shot. You should have got that shot." You know, but he really liked the interview shot I got. I still remember that because it was this really cool like angle where there's two people on a motorcycle. And like one person was like here and the other was like over there, and it just looked really cool. Yeah. And he was like, "Man, I love that interview shot though." Like, and I was like, "All right," you know. Yeah. And we were editing tape to tape. Oh yeah. So this is no nonlinear editing. You know, there's no color correction. You had to get it right in the field, which I think, I mean, if I was to open up any kind of training facility or whatsoever, I think I would very much for the first 6 months or a year have people have to edit tape to tape. You know, so I guess I'd have them using this old equipment or whatever. But
the weather office, sort of the behind-the-scenes weather office that we just kind of get the grunt work done every day, is right next door to George's. Yeah. And I love to listen in when you are training new reporters and photographers, because
I like to also look at the faces of the reporters when you're training them.
That's always funny too, because they're like, "Who is this man?" But just to listen to the things that you drill into them.
Well, yeah, Basics. It's important.
Yeah.
And I mean, really, in terms of news photography, like we don't know where we're going to go. We don't know what environment we're going to be going in. We might have a rough idea. You know, but that's why, like, you talk about bringing the live truck. Like, when I go to certain shoots, I'll bring the live truck because I got everything and anything in there. Yeah. Because I don't know what I'm going into. And it's always been my heart, and I think this got rooted in me at Southern Illinois University, is to want to have high quality and to maintain that standard. And as much as possible to not lower the standard, you know, just with all that you have, just keep moving it forward. Yeah. And keep pursuing that, you know, recognizing that at times you might have to sacrifice one thing or another, but in general, always coming back the next day and saying, I want to do better than what I did before, and keep pursuing that. And my heart's always been as well is that we can have why can't we have network quality productions at the local level? Yeah, you know, and really, the difference between network level and local level is simply resources, right? But thanks to technology, we can do a lot more now with a lot less. And so, but you still have to have that hunger and desire to want to do it. I want stuff to look good. Yeah. I want stuff to look like, you know, NBC News Network shot it. You know, I would actually rather have networks say, "Man, I wish that our stuff could look like the local." That good. You know, because we have the freedom where we can do a lot more with editing and things that.
To our viewers who may have a very keen eye, and if you don't start. Yeah. You can tell
when George is
working, whether it's a live shot,
Yeah.
Whether it's a story that's been sort of shot and edited and put together, you can tell when George is working.
Also to that.
Go ahead.
You go ahead.
I'm going to make you brag on yourself for a little bit. Like
Okay,
your
good. That's where I was
list
going.
of awards is insane. And we're not just talking about little ones. We're talking about you got some big ones.
Well, and praise God for that.
Yeah.
And that I don't want to say keeps me going, but it is good motivation because it's fun to win.
Yeah, it is.
It's fun to
And
win.
it's humbling to lose.
Yeah, but also at the same time, that should challenge you then to say, okay, like I remember the Emmy for me was the hardest to win.
The Emmy. That's the holy grail.
That was
the holy grail.
the hardest to win.
Yeah.
It took me. I've been nominated. I've got nominated in pretty much every market that I've worked in outside of, I think, Florida. In Florida, I don't even think we entered anything. But, gosh, that was, well, now Georgia I wasn't either, but that was early on. So it took 20 years.
Yeah.
20 years. And that was entering fairly consistently in this market as well. Not every year that I've been here, but 20 years. And I just remember feeling after losing in, what year was it? 2023? 2022. And this is why we also need people around us to encourage us as well, though. But I lost in 2022, and that was the first time I'd actually gone to the dinner.
Yeah.
And so I was like, oh, this is going to be the year.
Yep.
You know, I'm here. I'm at the dinner. I've never come to the dinner before,
Yeah.
you know. And I didn't win. And I had a headache by the end of the dinner. It was like 4 hours long, and you're sitting through this, and you're like, oh, man, I didn't win. And it's like a whole nother year now.
Yeah.
And I was up in the hotel room there, and my daughter London was with me, and Olivia was with me too, because we had planned a road trip right after that, immediately after that. And so the next day we were leaving for that. But I was kind of acting pouty. I was also, though, looking at the work that the winner had done. And I was like, I'm going to study his work and dissect it, and by golly, I'm going to win next year. And I'm going to, you know. But then also I had this kind of just, oh, man, it's going to be a whole nother year. Do I even want to, what's the point? You know, I can't win one. Good gracious, you know. And London said, don't worry, Dad, we're going to come back next year.
No.
And I said, why? Like, I don't want to.
I'm tired of that.
I don't want to sit through this dinner again and all this. I got a headache and she said, because you're going to win.
No.
And sure enough, I
So
did.
sweet.
And I wrote that down too. I said,
I remember you
what?
saying that in the speech.
And I said, you know what, London, you're right. You're right. I am. And I wrote that down, and then just, you know, because we can use that as motivation to keep us going.
Yeah.
You know, and to not settle. Like, I don't want to settle.
Yeah.
I don't want to just say, okay, I'm done. You know,
Yeah.
I'm going to allow whatever skills to erode away or something. Like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to settle. I want to keep maintaining and seeing how we can do things even better the next time around. And that can be scary too, because you really just kind of have to let go of things and just say, okay, how can I do this better? You have to constantly be challenging yourself.
Yeah.
You know, to want to do more and find that energy and that drive. And the other thing that I tell people, you know, the awards, they can't be the motivation for what you do. I mean, they can't. It's nice. It is encouraging. It's fun to win, like I said.
Yeah.
You know, it's good to have competition.
Yeah.
But that can't be the motivation
Right.
for what you're doing. And the other thing is, like, we have to really focus on the long term, right? And it's not about what am I. You know, it took 20 years to win the Emmy.
Yeah.
Like, don't give up.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, just because you don't get something year one or year two or year three, you know, don't let that take away from your passion and your desire to do good stories. You know, you got to keep going. You got to keep fighting, and you have to keep going after. You know,
And for a lot of the new people in the business, you got to just do the work.
Do it.
yeah.
You got to put in the work,
in
and
the
you got to
time.
make
You do.
mistakes and learn. And
You do.
Yeah, you got to do the work.
Yeah, because I mean, you reap what you sow.
Yeah.
And when you sow good things, it will happen. You know, it will happen. And whether it takes a year, 20 years, 30 years,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Doesn't matter.
But it will happen.
Yeah.
I think
so
another big thing too for younger people, especially in the business, they get so fixated on what the next move is,
Yeah.
the next jump, the
Yeah.
next city, that they literally miss the opportunities of
Yeah.
What can I do today? And George is great about that.
Mm-hmm.
Like if George can tell that you're in a weird mood or something, he's like,
Mm-hmm.
what's wrong? Talk to me. Well, how can we make this better? For instance, the podcast finale on, I think, season 1. I remember going to George trying to set up the technology because we don't know how any of this
Right, yeah.
worked. And he was going to be out there. And I said, George, I just think 2 cameras, or 1 camera, 2 mics, call it a day.
Yeah.
But why?
Yeah, well, that's a good question to ask too. Is always why? Why am
And
I
you
doing
did.
what I'm doing, and why am I not doing what I could be doing?
Well, and we did what we could do,
and
it looks so much better.
And that's what I always like about that's the heart of this station, though, as a whole,
100%. Yep.
is that we don't. Like if a no comes up, it's like, okay, well, how? Even like the engineering staff, like Mark Blazer, Gary Savage, the ones who initially got this station and built it and got it off the ground, it was you would bring to them a problem or a challenge, and they would say, okay, how can we get around this?
They
How
loved
can
it.
we get
Yeah.
over this?
Yeah.
And they would build stuff.
Yeah.
They would just put stuff together that we had these. One thing that was challenging with the initial cameras that we have, not the ones that we had originally, is that they didn't directly plug into the live truck. You had to run it through this converter, if you will. And so through the genius of the engineering staff of Gary Savage and Mark Blazer at the time, that they had created this metal box that contained everything, which was great for like severe weather because you had to have power running to it. So initially, when we were using these things, you would have power cables hanging off of the camera and all this stuff. And if it got wet, of course, it wouldn't. So they contained everything, and we called it the Blazer box.
The Blazer box. Yeah. Which we still use today, and I think other people who come in,
Yeah, they're like, what
hey,
is
grab
that?
the Blazer box, or hey, can we do a Blazer box shot
Right,
out
yeah.
front?
And they're like, what is
they
that?
literally
It's out
what
front.
is
We
that?
use it for weather.
They literally wired it up so that we could do live shots outside
And so,
the front
so
door.
we
And
had
it's-
these, so
yeah.
the point is that a way would be made, a way would be found, a way would be created. We don't come to a challenge and say, okay, well, that's too hard.
Yep.
We're not going to do that. It's okay. We recognize that this is going to be challenging. How can we get over the challenge and produce something that truly I can say that the market hasn't seen before?
Yeah. That takes me back. It's so funny you mentioned that. That takes me back to 16 years ago when we were doing the rehearsals for the newscast before we went on the air. Somehow or another, we were on the last night of rehearsals. We were scheduled to launch the next day. And the old set, which is kind of where we are now, you had your 2 anchors who would sit kind of on a raised platform. And then the weather anchor would, myself or whoever, would stand. I guess they didn't notice until the night before that I'm 6'1". And when I was standing on the edge of the set, I was towering above the anchors, and the set came up to my waist. It just looked ridiculous. So the night before, they literally went in and added 6 inches to the set the night before we launched to raise it up. And I think that's kind of the spirit of WMBF, like you were talking about. No, we got to get this done.
Yeah.
And they were cutting wood.
Yeah.
That night before.
When it comes to live weather for us, or even severe weather coverage, you're in the thick of it just as much as anybody else.
More than anybody.
More than anybody.
Yeah, more than anyone. You have seen more weather.
I was going to
here.
say,
lot of weather
what is
than
the most memorable storm you've covered?
For me, it's Matthew.
Yeah.
Matthew was the most memorable storm.
Okay.
Florence was the one where I would say I never want to cover a hurricane ever again.
Yep. Yep, that's kind of a consensus, yeah.
But Matthew was definitely, that was because I was with Amy Lipman, and we were out in Conway, and I think this was before Live View too, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I can't remember
Yeah.
if it was or not.
2016.
We were using the live truck, and so we're out in Conway, and we were pretty mobile. And I remember it was the first half of the day, and it seemed like, okay, this isn't going to be anything. We were driving around Conway, nothing was happening. I mean, it was just maybe windy, maybe raining, it wasn't anything significant. And we're like, man, what are we going to do? Like, this is boring. This is there's nothing to cover out here. And I think Amy had heard something about the Marion County animal shelter, I don't know, the roof was leaking or something, and it was like, well, let's drive out to Marion. We'll see how the puppies are doing, and we start driving up 501 heading into Marion County, and we get right near 22, and it was like everything shifted. It was like just the wind picked up. I remember, I don't even think I think by that point 501 had been closed because part of it had just flooded just from like the ditches filling up or something like that. And so I remember pulling over there on 501. We did a live shot like somewhere near Highway 22 before you get to it. And then we headed back into Conway. And then it was just like trees are just like falling, power lines are popping over, and Amy's like, I'm freaking out, like I gotta get out of here. Like,
I remember, I can see that live shot of you guys with 501 flooded behind you. I can just
Horry
it's just
County,
one of those
the
memories,
fire rescue was out there, and I remember, I think we were off of, I think it was Cultura Road that we started driving down, and that's when we really realized that it was like, okay, this is turning into something. And that's where the power lines were popping, and we couldn't even, we started to try to make our way back towards the TV station, and we couldn't. We couldn't get down 701 coming into downtown Conway. That was flooded there, and that there's like a lumber store over there. We couldn't get through 501 at one portion, I think, or whatever. We were trying to find our way. We ended up at Thompson Farms, where they have a barn there, I think it was, that's used for wedding facilities, and that got destroyed. I mean, just this big oak tree, whatever, came down upon it, and so we were fighting tooth and nail trying. I remember driving. I don't know what road I was on. I mean, we were just trying to find a way there.
Yeah,
we were trying to find a way from 701 south to get over to 378, or maybe it's the other way around. I can't remember, but I remember being down one road, and we're navigating it, and this is dark, because it was dark by this point, so you can't even see much of anything. And I'm like, I think we just need to stop. I don't think we need to keep going, because it was a dirt road. And I remember opening the door, and like if I had turned the wheel just another few inches to the left, like we would have been, like the truck would have been on its side. And I was like, Amy, we got to get out of here. And so I remember backing up the live truck in the darkness, you know, trying to get back to the main road. And by the grace of God, we made it to Thompson Farm there, and doing the live shot there for the 11 p.m. with the barn all broken up and everything, and the oak tree. And I don't know who it was. It was quite the scene. We made it there.
Yeah.
And then, of course, came home after that, and then it was like, I think the next week after that we were in the full
just
the
nonstop.
aftermath.
Yeah, I remember Matthew hit on a Saturday. You and I were in Conway, pitch landing, one of those spots for the flooding. And it was so bad. There were some river folk out there that weren't very happy that we were shooting in their front yard.
River rats.
I lost a camera in that. I think it was that storm too. I mean, that's the other thing that I tell people too, is that a lot of stuff, like I talk about caring for the gear, you know, but a lot of the stuff that I've broken equipment, you know, and I've dropped things, you know, I've flooded. I remember the river camera, especially because I think we had somebody from the corporate office here, and they were trying to encourage us. They were saying, you got to be active and get in the thick of it, you know, with live shots and show people stuff, And I'm like, well, I'm going to show this corporate person something. We're going to have this awesome live shot. We're going to be in the thick of it, by golly. We're going to be set up in the middle of the floodwater. I mean, I had the tripod probably where I shouldn't have had it. Well, definitely where I shouldn't have had it, because the camera got ruined. It was like 6 inches of water, and the camera's on the tripod, and the reporter's there. We're going to do this great live shot, and I had to run back to the live truck for something. I don't know what, but when I ran back to the live truck, a truck comes rolling down the road, creates a wake. What does the wake do? Boop. Pushes the camera over. And of course, I mean, the camera was ruined. You know, there's nothing you can do about that. As soon as it goes in the water and it's on, it gets fried. So there was it happens.
And then Florence, which was the never-ending.
That was horrible. The hard part about Florence is that we were in a tough spot up there in Cherry Grove. We were in a tough spot. That was, we had a condo up on the 7th floor. Even before the storm even arrived, the power was out in Cherry Grove.
Right.
And so I had a generator. I mean, I was exhausted. I had a generator. We got to like the 4th level, I think is where the parking garage ended. The elevators were out because there's no power. I was running power from the generator through the stairwell up to the 7th floor. And so, it was just, and then it just wouldn't go away.
And then a month of flooding. We spent a lot of afternoons and evenings together doing live shots and Bucksport,
hanging by the
Burgess,
Socastee,
and hanging out at the Socastee Swing
there.
Bridge. Yeah.
Even my neighborhood, I think.
Yeah, we literally did a live shot in your neighbor's backyard.
Yeah, that was the highest. That was, I think, at the highest point.
Yeah, that was I think the day the Waccamaw crested.
Yeah,
the day before it crested. Yeah, we were right in his neighbor's backyard. Water was coming in the house, and there we were.
Yeah.
What's your favorite George story? I know you got plenty. And we've already said plenty.
It's not just one. I think it's just a culmination. Every time I show up to do a live shot with George, one, I'm happy. Like if I get hey, go out and do this. Hey, go out and do this.
It makes my day.
George is your photographer. I'm like, all right, it's going to look good. That means it's an easy day for me.
Yes.
Like just a few weeks ago, we were down at Merle's Inlet for Marcia Gras. And that's kind of a tradition for us now. We like get our little table.
It has become one, hasn't it?
Lady brings out drinks and cocktails.
Yes,
and
they
good
take care
food.
of
They take care of us.
Yeah,
but
very hospitable.
Just all of them. I mean, whether it's the Hurricanes, one of my favorite times to work with George is CCMF.
Yeah.
I will never forget the first CCMF live shot I ever did. They were like, yeah, meet him in this parking garage, the big parking garage downtown. I'm like, that's where we're doing our live shots for CCMF in a parking garage? That's going to look trash. I get there. He's set up, and the lights are perfect, and there's a stool for me, and the most amazing thing that I will never forget, and I still look forward to it every year, a freaking screen door is what it is. You have that like regular screen that you use to just sort of filter the view behind us.
Cuts down the contrast a little
and
bit.
it is beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Like when you go back and look at it, it is such a beautiful shot that no one would never know that you're in what is really a pretty sketchy and scary parking garage. I mean, if you go down the wrong stairwell, you may run into some stuff that you don't want to see. You know?
There's so much that goes on. Sometimes I think if we had the staff, it would be so much fun for a crew, just a separate crew, just to follow. I mean, I just think I know
100%.
I know people would love to see that, like all what goes in. It is a lot of work. I mean, it is an incredible amount of work.
Yeah.
What it goes into. It's an incredible amount of work from the producing side with all you all do on graphics and work like that. It's an incredible amount of work to do on the production side in terms of getting the look to be right.
And then I always look back fondly at some of the really big projects that we've done here. The air show.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
The air show we had.
I'm so jealous.
The one air show we had in Myrtle Beach, and we decided as little WMBF that we were going to do 8 hours of live broadcasting from literally from the runway.
Yeah.
And
we had scissor lifts going on with that.
Oh man, it looked good.
Yeah.
When we did a couple of Darlington specials. Those were like 8-hour days.
Yeah.
That we were literally on the air for 8 hours doing Darlington coverage, and it just to be able to pull it off, thanks mainly to this guy, is just unbelievable.
And that was fun too, though, because we got to we would work with other stations as well, like with WCSC for the air show with their meteorologist came up.
Yeah, Bill Walsh came up and hung out with us, and
when we worked with WIS on the Darlington Southern 500 coverage, and so that. Like the resources are there, I think, but you have to ask for them as well. Like, you know what I mean, and just really say, okay, again, we come to that challenge. How can we get around this? So that's the benefit too. We also stand at the benefit of you and I being here for 16 years. That we have been able to cultivate something. Yeah. We've been able, like all the equipment that you talk about that's been used at like CCMF and the other events, like that. Obviously, that wasn't here 15 years ago.
Yeah.
Technology has changed, so some of it wasn't even available. But now, in the past probably 5 years or so, we've really been able to gather I would say the beyond the basics.
Yeah.
We were outfitted well in the beginning, but we didn't have anything extra.
Right.
And now we have a collection of the extras that allow us to take the production from just being this kind of, okay, here we are, that we're able to elevate it to saying, okay, yes, we're here, and it's going to look really good as well.
And we've got some big stuff coming up in the next couple
Can't
of
say
months. We can't say what they are, but big stuff.
And for me, it's incredibly exciting.
And cannot wait to see what we come up with and pull off in these next couple of months.
And it's going to be a lot of work. Like I remember, oh my gosh, the hurricane week. That was-
Last year, yeah. the
Whose
first ever-
idea was that?
Yeah.
Whose idea was that? That was.
I've already started planning this with this year.
Whose
so.
idea that was?
Yeah.
But that's
So let's
okay
see, we
because
were
you
at-
know what? Because and actually the timing is
Because you were there in the morning and evening too.
yeah.
Yeah.
You and I were exhausted that
Yeah.
week.
Oh my gosh. Yes. Well, thankfully we did do it only 4 days, so we
Yeah.
didn't do it the Friday.
Yeah.
So
Thank the
so
Lord.
whatever you're planning,
Yeah.
let's hold fast to that
Yeah.
schedule again because that was a benefit. Because yes, we were exhausted by the end of it.
So we were at Bowie's the first day,
Mm-hmm.
and of course the summer storm came up, and moving
the
equipment.
Merle's Inlet was the
and
worst.
then Merle's Inlet, where we,
that was.
where
That was bad.
we broke the lights and the wind, and
Which they had repaired by the time
which-
we were
yeah,
there for
but-
Marshy.
that's
and they
good.
still and
Yeah,
they
they
still
had- I
served
said-
us food and
Yeah,
drinks.
They welcomed us back. I
Yeah.
said, Jamie, look, the lights
Yeah,
are back
lights
up.
are fixed. Yeah, well, man, we tore up that porch at Bovines for Hurricane Week.
Yeah,
man,
that was
we
a
tore it
fun.
up.
That was
Yeah.
a fun time.
That was a scene.
I can't wait to see what we have coming in the
That
next
was a
couple of
scene.
months. My favorite story with this guy, there's multiple, but the one I remember is you sent us. You said, "Hey, I'm going to send you and George to Rockingham," or no, you just said go north. So there was snow. Remember this?
Yeah.
And I said, Jamie, that's going to be about like maybe 3 hours, depending on what model's right here. So just drive north and have fun. George and I had a blast. We finally make it up well north of Rockingham. We thought we were going to Rockingham. We didn't get back till like 1 a.m. that night. But I will never forget, it is pouring snow for snow coverage. And I look over and I hear this man brought a portable cooler
Darn right I did.
to
I gotta
get
bring
the
some
snow
snow
to
back,
bring
yeah.
it home to London so she could see it. I thought that was probably one of the coolest things ever. We just had this big cooler of snow.
Yeah, I was like, yeah, gotta bring some snow back.
Back to the beach just
Yeah.
because he was such a weather enthusiast.
That brings me. I'm sure we're getting short on time. It finally dawned on me. My favorite George story when you and I got to fly with the Hurricane Hunters.
Oh yeah,
That's cool.
That was
So
yes, that
every year
that was
the Hurricane Hunters do a tour, and they'll actually take the planes to
Yeah.
different cities. Myrtle Beach was on the list, and we made some calls and got in touch with the right people and actually managed to get on
That's awesome.
one of the Hurricane Hunters. Is their before us, their
Gonzo
stop
jet.
was in Norfolk. So they were up in Norfolk, Virginia. So
we drove.
we drove from Myrtle Beach. But when you're riding with George, you're not going to take an interstate.
No, it's all
we
back
touched
roads.
95 for a little
For a second.
yeah.
But
We're
we
95.
stopped at some random place in Kinston, North Carolina.
You're going to eat good with George, too.
Yeah, we
Because-
got tacos, didn't
Yes.
we? In the rock?
He knows all the mom and pop places.
Yeah. We stopped for a barbecue.
Because if you get hungry, you're not
Yeah.
going to do your job well.
We stopped for barbecue. It's not a short drive from here to Norfolk anyway.
No.
I
We
swear, I
stopped
think
for peanuts too.
we had to stop
we had
for
to get
some peanuts.
Virginia peanuts.
We get there, and I guess what we should have done, and this is probably my fault, we should have probably like done a story or
Well, we
like
should have left 2 hours earlier.
should have
too, I
left 2
think.
hours earlier, maybe like shot some video or something.
Didn't do it. We
We're
went
like,
out to
no.
dinner across the Chesapeake
We're like,
Bay,
yeah, let's go across the Chesapeake
watching
Bay
the
Bridge.
sunset. It was beautiful, mind you.
George and I are walking on the beach at sunset on the Chesapeake Bay.
We got through the Chesapeake Bay Tunnel Bridge
Yeah.
system. That was
We had an
remarkable
amazing dinner.
feat of engineering, I must say.
We got up the next morning. We got on the plane. Shot a
Well, we
little
did the
bit on
live
plane.
shots too.
Did a
We
couple
did live
shots
in the morning. We were out
yeah.
there at 5 in the morning.
And we got on the
We
plane
were up
and
early.
flew home on the Hurricane Hunter. And kind of, I waltzed in and was like, yeah, day's pretty well done. And go home. And the boss was like, you didn't do a story or like
You did
shoot a package for
Well,
us?
you
I'm
probably
like,
did live shots.
I mean, I did a couple live shots. I didn't know I had to turn a story. We were having a good time. We were flying on the plane.
We never had direct order.
I still have the picture of you and I in the cockpit.
Yeah.
We didn't get an order.
We
So
never
like,
had direct orders. They said, well, maybe if you can see how it goes when you get there. Well, we got there. The event was over.
Yeah. So we went.
my
There was
goodness.
nothing. There was nothing to shoot.
Yeah. So we had a sunset dinner on Chesapeake Bay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then flew back.
Yeah. And that was we were on the Gonzo
Yeah,
jet.
the Gonzo jet.
Yeah,
yeah.
which is I don't know what kind of smaller jet. It
Yeah.
wasn't the big
the big C-130.
C-130
Yeah, but yeah.
plane.
Yeah, it was a nice
but
ride.
I had the cockpit seat too,
Yeah.
or the so my
Yeah.
whole time. That's actually, you know what happened during that trip? is that before that, I was very much like, I'm driving everywhere.
Yeah.
And I think that came after the trip. It was when the last time I believe it was that the Coastal men's basketball team made it into the NCAA tournament, and they were playing in Omaha.
Yep.
And it was me, Joe Morano, and Damon Cutno, and we drove from here to Omaha, Nebraska, which is
I can't imagine. I cannot imagine.
It was a 20-hour. I got stories from that trip. I don't know if we have time to get into it. But that was a 20-hour. But the cool thing about that trip, though, is that we went through my college town. So we stayed overnight in my college town.
Salukis.
And yeah, so go Salukis. I got to see the new football stadium. And actually, you know, through the eclipse, I know you have plans for that, but the eclipse is actually passing through there again, the totality. And so
If you want to go visit
exciting.
Southern
Yeah, if you
Illinois,
want to see Southern
Go to
Illinois
Salukis.
University, that'd be a great time to see it in April.
get you a T-shirt.
I forgot exactly where I was going with that. Oh, but the whole thing, the drive, I was all about driving everywhere. I was like, oh, we'll drive. Even with my kids going on vacation, whatever, we'll drive. But flying back, I just remember how, because that trip, driving there for whatever reason seemed like it just took forever.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's just because where Myrtle Beach is and where
Right.
Norfolk is,
Yeah.
just in how you get there. You can't obviously go straight there. You
Yeah.
have to kind of go inland and then up and around and all that. It just seemed like it just took forever. And then when
Because you kept stopping.
Food.
I mean, I haven't been to that area since.
Yeah.
So I have to.
Yeah.
We need to celebrate life and take in the moments that are before us because we don't know if we're going to have
That's
them.
right.
And I haven't been back there since.
Me neither.
I wish we could have spent more time.
Me neither. Yeah.
But anyway, but then we flew back so quickly. It was like, oh my gosh, we got back in like less than an hour.
Oh, yeah, it was
I
like a
think
30-minute
was.
flight.
It was
Yeah,
like
it was like,
ridiculous. It
we're
was
back.
like we were up, and then it was like, oh, there's Wilmington. Oh, here's Myrtle Beach. I was like, flying is awesome.
What's this crazy new invention of the
Flying,
airplane?
yeah. I was like, flying is amazing. I want to fly everywhere now. And so it reignited my passion for flight. And now my younger daughter, London, wants to be a pilot.
Oh, that's great.
And so
Yeah.
that wasn't my influence. That was from her uncle's influence. But nonetheless,
still awesome.
She wants to be a pilot now.
Love it.
So
For the first time, I don't know if we're going to have time for this.
Yeah, I don't even think we need to.
But I would like to end it with him. Just one thing. If you could tell the people at home why they should trust local weather
yeah.
and listen to Are You Serious, what would you tell him? Because I know he's going to give a stellar answer.
Yeah,
and
just,
we'll clip
just
it.
sit back and
Yeah. Why should people
listen to Are You Serious?
Yeah, and
why
and
should
trust
they tune
local
in?
news and weather?
Why should they trust local news and weather?
Yeah.
Because the local news and the weather is about your community. It's about the area in which you live. And it's about telling you what is going on in your neck of the woods, to take Al Roker's saying. And it's from people that live here as well. And especially from the meteorologist team, it's from people that have lived here for a while. It's from people that are passionate about what they do and that want to give the viewer information that will help them and benefit them, help them to prepare, help them to make decisions, and so it's from people that care is ultimately what it's about, is that people that want to be a part of this community, play their role in the community and helping people be informed about what is going on and what the weather may be so that we can make better decisions about how and when we plan to do things.
Look at that.
beautiful.
You're also not going to meet a nicer person than George.
A ray of light.
Seriously.
Absolute ray
we
of
mean
light.
that.
Yeah. And I don't say nice things about people often. I threw up a little bit trying to say that.
We're getting too
Well, what a
emotional here.
blessing.
Yeah. That's
What a
enough of
blessing.
that.
We're definitely, I think, going to have to do a George
you-
Part 1, George Part 2 down the road.
Yeah.
Do you want one last thing that I think you might find a little profound, perhaps?
Yeah, leave us with some profound thoughts.
But I have my brother-in-law and sister think that you don't like me.
Think that I don't like you?
Oh, we got
Why?
time. Let's unpack this. Hold up.
What is
Still
this?
ask me about it.
Let's go.
What
Because
happened?
there was one time. There was one time.
Oh my
There was one time, and I don't take offense to it. And I wasn't offended at all.
Okay.
I wasn't. I'm
I'm
saying
terrified.
that. I'm saying this right here that I wasn't offended at all.
Okay.
All right. But we were at Tupelo Honey, and
Yeah.
it would just open.
Yeah.
And like you were there and I was there with them and I said hi to you or whatever. And to them, it seemed like you just brushed me off or whatever. And it was just, we were two coworkers.
Right.
Yeah. And they're like, oh, he doesn't like you or whatever. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like,
And they still ask you about it to
yeah,
this
they
day?
still bring it up. They're like, you.
What?
Isn't that
Well, I hope
isn't
they
that
watch
crazy?
this.
Yes.
And hear the
I'm
one
gonna
nice
point
thing
him
I
to it. I'm
said.
gonna point him to
I
it.
said one nice
I'm
thing.
going to point him to it.
Wow.
Isn't that something?
Well, for it to be Tupelo honey, that was a long time
That's
ago.
what I'm saying.
Wow. Man, talk about holding a grudge.
Right? And I was like, it's not. He just we're people that work together.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You
well,
know?
I was probably
I
in a
tell you
social
what.
setting. I might have had a couple of drinks in me. I didn't know who you
Cocktails.
were.
What are you talking
Who's that guy
about? What are
waving?
you talking about? So, yeah, I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, okay. Well, that's not as bad as I thought it was.
No, it's not. But it's
thought we were
just
about to
it's
drop
funny.
a
I
bomb.
just bring it up because it's like
Yeah.
it remains in their mind or whatever, and I was like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
Because we have a good time together.
We do, indeed.
And
It is always
an
a good
adventure.
laugh. Yeah.
It is a journey, and that's what life should be.
Yes.
Life is exciting. It should be an adventure. It is a journey. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Last but not least, when I first met you, you said, good day. That's what you
Good
said.
day.
Good
Where did that come
day.
from?
That just came from, I really don't remember where that came from, but just something that kind of happened. You
Okay.
know, a lot of things in my life sort of just kind of sprout up, and it's like, well, that's a good thing. I'll
Yeah.
keep that going.
It's kind of like your trademark now.
And good
Yeah.
day.
how you
good
know
day. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think
when
what it
George
was,
is
we
here.
would do so many emails, you know, and so it's like, well, how am I going to start an email? So I'll just put good day on everything.
And now you say it to
Good
everyone.
day
Yeah.
on everything.
Yeah.
And
love that.
Might have been my mother's inspiration too, because, oh, you want to hear one other little thing?
Yeah, of course. Of course.
So the viewers might like it, but the the Surfside turkey trot. If you go back and you look in the archives of WMBF and the coverage that we've done with that, you'll see, I believe, my mother interviewed about 4 years in a row. and she more or less always says the same thing. She'll say, "It's a great day to be alive."
No.
And so the good day, I think, comes from that spirit of it's a great day to be alive. And
Indeed it is.
so that's where you get the good day coming in.
Well, it's a good day to listen to Are You Serious?
So
No doubt. This
it's a
has
great
been a
day to be
blast.
alive.
Episode 40.
Yes.
Thanks for coming on, George.
Yeah,
My
appreciate it.
pleasure. Thank you
Yeah,
for
we'll
the
definitely
invitation.
we'll have to bring you back later.
There was a lot
is,
that I had in my mind to talk about. We didn't even get
Didn't
to.
even get
and
close.
I knew it would be that way.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
The finale, start thinking about where you want to do it.
Yep.
You're going to be
Well,
there
yeah,
with
we're
us.
good to-
So think about
Yeah, we're
food.
doing it on
and-
Lombardo's, we both have
Yeah.
been
Yeah. Well,
an experience.
we're doing Hurricane Week again, so
Yeah, so start resting now.
coming
Yeah,
up
I
with
got
that plan.
it. I got it. I have a 2-week vacation planned immediately following that general time
Okay,
frame.
good.
Okay.
Good. I'll probably be doing the same.
Yeah.
We're all going to need some recovery.
Yeah.
Rest is good.
Awesome. Well, that does it for episode 40. George, thank you so much.
Yeah, appreciate it.
And we don't know what we're doing next week. We never do.
We'll come up with it. We'll
Yeah.
figure something out.
We'll see you all next week.
Thanks.